Welcome to the Dreamboat. We are a project of the DRI Centre for Dream Studies in London. The DRI offers courses and training in dream work and getting to know your own dreams, from webinars to year-long immersive courses. Enrollment for the 2024 courses opens in September 2023. More information at driccpe.org.uk, where you can also become a member for just £30 per year and get discounts for our events and access to extra materials, including video courses. The DRI is part of the CCPE Educational Trust, a registered charity in the UK. Welcome to the Dreamboat podcast, a place where we talk about everything dreamy, all you wanted to know about dreams and where you might find some answers. My name is Dave Billington, and I'm a psychotherapist, and I'm also director of the Dream Research Institute. And I'm joined by fellow psychotherapist Laura Payne.
Hello, I'm Laura Payne, and I'm also part of the Dream Research Institute. And we're called the Dreamboat because we are actually recording our podcast on a beautiful canal barge here at Little Venice in London called the Boat Pod.
We'll be looking at dreams, talking to guest experts, and answering your questions.
Now, let's get on with the episode. When we mention alchemy, most people will think of Harry Potter, thanks to mentions of the Philosopher's Stone in J.K. Rowling's very first novel. But what is alchemy actually about? Well, we've mentioned it in passing during various dream interpretations during the last two series, but we've decided it's time to look at this in more detail in relation to dreaming.
If you have heard of alchemy, you might think of it as a medieval mix of magic and science, with the alchemist in his lab trying to turn lead into gold and ultimately to discover the Philosopher's Stone. In fact, we get the word chemistry from the Arabic word alchemia, which in turn comes from the ancient Greek chemia and possibly from the ancient name for Egypt, which is chem.
Yeah, I love the sort of potential antecedents of this word. Anyway, even in the centuries before modern chemistry, alchemists understood that the quest for gold was really a transformational process within the self. This was about human development, both spiritual and psychological, and so it has strong roots with esotericism and mysticism, as it still does today.
And that's largely thanks to the work of Carl Jung.
Yeah.
During the period in which he was writing his famous Red Book, he was also looking at the engravings and the emblems from the medieval alchemists. And he was realizing that what he was looking at resonated with his own deep inner process of transformation and the psychological theories that he'd been working on previously. So his writings, which came much later, have been hugely influential, particularly in Jungian psychotherapy and analytical psychology. They've been hugely influential in developing this symbolic language of psychological and spiritual transformation. And what's great about this is that it can help each of us with this kind of inspiring task that we have of developing and deciphering the shared language we each have with our own unconscious.
Yes, I think one of the beautiful things about alchemy is the depth of imagery that has just transpired over the centuries. And these images are so powerful and sit deep, I think, within our subconscious, unconscious, as Jungians would say, in the collective unconscious consciousness, in the form of archetypes. And the alchemists really understood the power of some of these images that they developed over the centuries. And so what we have noticed working with dreams is how all of the varying constructs around what makes an alchemical process actually arises within somebody's personal development, but more importantly, within their dreams. And I think why don't we just have a look at what is the basic structure, first of all, of alchemy?
Sure, yeah. So it is a process of transformation, and in the way that Jung developed it, reflecting those ancient texts, it can be seen as having four parts. And it starts with Negredo. Negredo means blackness, it means darkness. And it's probably something we can all identify with. It's that moment when we're plunged into confusion.
Yeah, the dark night of the soul, as it's often referred to, but also it has a sense of annihilation about it and chaos. It's when we're in the poo of life, basically.
Yeah, and there's a lot of imagery that comes up around that. We see it a lot in terms of the dreams that people bring, which is, falling into the outhouse or, being covered in excrement. So there's a kind of shame that might be associated with that, a sense of putrefaction, which is another really important aspect of it. But it's that confusion where all the rules that you thought you had for life no longer seem to apply. And I think it's really important because there's something that people can identify with in that, which is, you grow up and you're taught to follow the rules. And the message you're given is, if you do this, then good things will happen. Spoiler alert for everyone, it doesn't actually work that way.
We know.
You can do good things, you can do the right thing, and it doesn't always have the results that you expect.
Yeah.
And also, I think where this really comes up for people in terms of maturing into a whole version of themselves is that, you can be told that you're good or bad. You can be told this message and you believe something about yourself, but always the opposite is potentially true as well. So what happens quite often is people think, well, I'm a good person. I have good intentions. And what you maybe discover at a certain point in adult life is that with your good intentions and with your good heart, you can still end up hurting people.
Yeah. Or chaos will just arrive outside of your control and turn your world upside down. And probably most of you listening have had moments like that. It's what the astrologers often say is your Saturn period. Saturn return it's often seen as the destroyer and the changer of lives, the sort of grim reaper, cutting out all the dead wood and leaving you with the new material. And in fact, the alchemists themselves loved the notion of Saturnine influences, and a lot of the illustrations that are used, that they've developed over the centuries, feature that.
Yeah. The thing with this initial stage of the four, is that it comes on us without our choosing. And it does feel like this huge challenge and this destructive side. That's usually what we recognize first. But it's important to remember that this is where the potential comes from as well.
This is the prima materia, as the philosophers called it, the basic material from which the quest for the gold will come out of. This is the gold within the self. And as therapists, we know often we see people when they're in their Negredo phase. They come because life feels unbearable or chaotic or out of control in some way. Yeah. We often say that this is the time when people are most likely to enter into therapy. And that's a good thing, because that means that you're engaging with this process. You're taking the opportunity to actually go through a change. Where this becomes dysfunctional, and whether or not it's in therapy, it doesn't really matter. But where it becomes dysfunctional is where we go into denial. And we try to convince ourselves, consciously, unconsciously, that actually nothing's happening, nothing's changed, there's nothing to do here. And then you need all the defense mechanisms, which might be, alcohol, drugs, other forms of distraction, addiction, that can come up. And then that potential can't grow, it doesn't fulfill, and you start to get stronger and stronger messages from the unconscious saying, you need to pay attention, you need to wake up to what's going on. You're not living your whole self. So there's the images that come up around this in dreams can be really dark, but can be a kind of a strange beauty to them as well. A dragon is often a symbol in this stage.
a dragon, which
Or the serpent.
That's right, the serpent.
I should say I'm looking at a book here.
Yes. Actually, tell people about the book.
Yes, I'm looking at the most beautiful book I love around this. It's such a great source of inspiration. It's the Taschen book, and it's called The Hermetic Museum, Alchemy and Mysticism by Alexander Roob. That's ROOB. And it is a treasure trove of all the varying alchemical plates that have been put together over the years, and a few modern images as well. And it's broken down into different sections that the alchemists would look out for, things like the human form, the divine form, the philosophical egg, which was the sort of part of the quest for the gold. Phrases that you will have probably heard of. But as Dave was saying, you know, the serpent is a classic image, particularly if you see that come up in dreams. Often, I know we've talked about snakes and everything else in different ways, but also it is a sign sometimes that you are in that chaos of life.
Yeah. So much of the imagery that you have in this stage is often going to be around things that are earthy, on the ground, underground. There's that sense of kind of the volcanic energy, you know, that there's something bubbling up from beneath the surface, something that's raw and primal and immensely powerful, maybe quite dangerous, maybe quite frightening. But again, it connects to the sense of the excrement that you have that putrefaction, which leads to creating the fertile soil for something to grow.
Yeah, we talked about the greening before. It's almost like in this blackness, this darkness, where is the colour going to arrive? Mm-hmm. And the alchemists would look in their alchemical labs in the flasks, which were these big metals, or retorts, which were these big metal or glass bottles, to look for the change of the colour.
That's right. Yeah. And so if we can take that sense of being the alchemists in our own labs of our personalities when life brings these changes to us, then you can have that sense of observation. You can be with the difficulty of it and wait for, and maybe even encourage the transformative aspects to start to occur. What I'm thinking now, Laura, is maybe we should talk more about the structure of the model, because
I was thinking that
it's so rich, and we could spend days talking about any one part of it. But
maybe say that Dave actually does lecture on this, so he's a mine of information, and we'll keep him to the hour.
Definitely. Yeah, there's too much to be said, and you know, there's shelves of books that have been written on the subject. Jung himself wrote quite a lot. Marie-Louise von Franz wrote about it as well.
Book. Yeah.
There's so many wonderful
Edinger,
authors,
which we both like. We'll put all the books that we really recommend on the subject in the show notes, because it is a wonderful treasure trove, and it's, if you like this type of thing, it's really exciting.
Yeah, and people do make a life of studying this
exactly.
Symbolic system. But so we started with Negredo. Yep. So here, down into the darkness, things fall apart.
How do you know you're getting
Chaos.
out?
Well, this is it. And so, from that stage of you don't know what direction you're going, you don't know what's up or what's down. And then the symbol is often that there's just this little bit of light on the horizon. And this is entering into the stage that's called albedo, which means whitening, lightening.
A bit like albumin in egg white. It's because the same
exactly.
root.
Yeah. And again, if you've gone through a process of change in your life, and who hasn't? Life is change. Then you might have that sense of, oh, okay, I think I'm starting to get the idea. Mm. And very often the image here is of being in the middle of the sea. Mm. So maybe you're not drowning. Maybe the waves aren't crashing down on you anymore. But suddenly it's like, okay, I think I know where the shore is. Or maybe there's that sense of moonlight, or maybe just the beginning of dawn in a particular direction.
I was going to say moonlight is often a real clue that albedo is around. any form of what the alchemists called reflective light, as the moon is. Obviously, the sun reflecting on the moon is what you're actually seeing. And there's something about the notion of reflective light. It's not full knowledge yet, but it's the hint of knowledge to come. Full knowledge being seen as in broad daylight. It's there and you can really see it. But this is the hint of what is going to come, which I really like about it. And people often see reflections in this. In dreams, you'll have, as you say, images about moonlight on water and reflective light. Mirrors can often appear at this time as well.
Yeah. And as well, reflections that you see in others.
Yes.
So it might be that person that holds a little bit of the ideal, the better parts of yourself that you're not really in touch with. And that, those people can come out in dreams, but you might actually encounter them in life as well and be drawn to somebody who represents some of that for you. What's happening in this stage in the kind of spiritual sense that Jung was talking about is that you're getting in touch with your soul. Mm-hmm. So there's that formed egoic personality that thinks it's the be-all, end-all, that really gets challenged in that first stage. And what happens is you start to see that there is another aspect to yourself. Now, soul is a word that means different things to different people, but you can think of it as just being your nature, your true nature, the things that have maybe been forgotten about or trained out of you in order to adapt to a family system or a social system, maybe one that's quite dysfunctional. Yeah. But in any case, you have to adapt.
Yeah, it has an essential feel, doesn't it, about it? There's a quote that I love about this period. I think it comes from one of the alchemists that said, "Sow your golden seeds in the white foliated earth," which is a beautiful quote for this stage. The golden seeds being the potential, and the white foliated earth, the white being the albumen, the albedo stage, and the earth being the area of transformation that in Negredo is sort of distorted and chaotic.
Yeah.
It's lovely, isn't it? I really love that. Yeah.
So we're going from, in that first stage in Negredo, there's the confrontation with shadow, all the things you thought you weren't.
Yeah, good Jungian terms, yeah.
Yeah. Now in Albedo, here's a meeting potentially with aspects of yourself that you never thought to hope for. Your better self, your higher self, and you can see it as in other terms. But it's not the end of the process.
No, 2 more to go.
And we'll talk a little bit more about sort of what goes on in each of these stages, the processes that one needs to go through, the operations. But what comes next is citrinitas. Yeah. And this is that butter yellow sun, or sometimes lemon yellow. That's hence the citrinitas. That's the symbolic color. It's also the color of sulfur, which was hugely important for the alchemists in the sort of chemistry side of their work, because sulfur was a catalyst for the transformations in many of the experiments that they were doing. And so they saw it as essentially the metaphor, the physical metaphor for, spirit coming in and driving this change. Mm. And in our experience of it, it is this sense of light. We have this word, we talk about enlightenment. Yeah. It's about realizing who you really are, and realizing the wholeness that's possible within yourself. So yes, there is the egoic self. Yes, there is this true nature, this soul that needs to be met and worked with. And in this process, ego starts to be in service to soul rather than the other way around. Ego always prefers that everything's in service to it.
It's often known as the aha moment, and it can be very fleeting, the citrinitas moment, but profound. Yeah. And when you see it in dreams, I like the way you said it often comes in mist, because you often get that in dreams where the mist can come in And suddenly it clears, and there's this wonderful aha moment for the dreamer.
Yeah.
And where they see, almost like it's those brief moments in life where you see the full picture.
Yeah. Yeah.
Deep connection with everything.
Yeah. And is that sense of purpose. So when you know who you are, then you know what you're for. And, a realization of where you stand in your own life and in a broader sense. And it's fleeting, but what we learn with that is you learn how to connect to that bigger sense of self. When you're talking about Jung, we're talking about transpersonal psychology, transpersonal psychotherapy. It's this sense that your consciousness is not just something that's in the cells of your brain. Consciousness is something that we participate in.
Yeah, and it's wider, beyond us.
It's beyond us, hence transpersonal. So when you can actually attune to that and realize that you're not here for you, but you are here as a result. You are an emanation of this larger consciousness.
I was going to say also in dreams, you'll often get where you might have opposites appear in dreams. You'll often get a sign of union in some way. And it will be like the sun and the moon has come together and got married. And a lot of the alchemists would put together pictures of what was known as the royal wedding, which was the coming together of these varying opposites. But in reality, for the alchemists, this was the coming together of the human form with the divine. And very powerful. It's although this is a stage, there are, as Dave said, operations like death, which would be mortificatio for the alchemist. There are a lot of Latin terms here, guys. And this is known as the royal wedding, or any form of union would be conjunctio. And you'll often have in clients, there'll be sexual dreams. There'll be dreams where they'll be having sex with, whatever or whoever. But it's not the fact that this might be on a psychological term, something to do with their sex life in the real world, but it's a symptom or a signal very often that we're looking at some form of deeper union within themselves.
Yeah. These parts are joining, and that it's a generative union. Something new comes from this meeting. Another symbol that comes up with this, and again, Jung talked about it as the symbol of the self, the capital S self, which is the unified, so not just the ego, not just your kind of raw nature, but it's the union of spirit and matter, in what he would say. And that can come up in images such as a cross, an evenly balanced cross.
Yeah.
So showing that there's something vertical and something horizontal, and that our consciousness is at the meeting point of those. Also symbols of globes, circles.
The Platonic spheres as such, the Platonic shapes and forms, often very important at this stage.
Those and squares as well. So it's symmetry. Things have joined together and become even and balanced within the psyche. But that's not the end of it, because everything up until this point is called the minor work, if you can believe that. And the minor work is to get to this point of having a sense of who you really are.
Yeah.
The major work is, how do you live that out?
Yeah, bringing it back down to earth.
Exactly.
And living it for real, living the transformed self, the change. And this term's known as rubedo. Yeah. And you'll get in dreams rubedo coming from the notion of red. You'll get a lot of signs of reddish brown colours coming in, tiles baking. I had a client once that had all these beautiful tiles that they had formed and laid out in the sun, and it was a classic sign of rubedo. It was beautiful, and they had done so much lovely work until that point. It felt very clear that this is what was happening.
Yeah.
in many ways, Rubedo is the royal marriage, finally. It is the transformed self. And unfortunately, once you've transformed and you've found the new you that answers what happened in the Negredo stage, the cycle goes back round again, and you can then find yourself back into yet a new period of transformation.
Yeah.
So it's not the end of it all.
Certainly not. Certainly not. But while there is this sense of it being the major work, and maybe really that there is work to be done within this, it's also again in this return to earth. There's a real beauty to it. And the imagery that can come up around this, if you're familiar with the soil of certain parts of Africa, where we came from originally, this red earth. Yeah. And in fact, there's other places around the world, even here in Britain, out in Devon, the earth is quite that kind of rusty red.
It is, yeah, very much so.
But if you think about it, maybe not so much in Devon, but the sunlight, this the brightness of the sun, the fertile soil, and this is where things can really be put into practice. Things can really come and grow and come to fruition. And it's this sense that when spirit and mind and matter, when it all comes together, that it is transformative in the outer world.
Yeah, for the alchemist, this was the philosopher's stone. This was the gold.
Yeah, yeah. And in fact, with the philosopher's stone, I love it because when you look at the words, you have philosophy and you have stone. Yeah. The sense of something that is intangible meeting the ultimate tangible object.
I like that a lot. Yeah. That is really lovely.
And that when those come together, the idea, again, it came out in Harry Potter, that the Philosopher's Stone is supposed to make you immortal. The point of it, I think, is that it is a self-sustaining process that continues to go on and have transformative power. You may have met people in your life who have gone through something really important and really discovered something about themselves. And there's often a real magnetism to them. Mm. And what happens is that when people know who they really are, then they are able to be more effective in the world as well. And they are transformative by their very nature.
That's really lovely. I like that as an expression. We should just sort of quickly touch on what are known as the operations. So those are the 4 stages of the cycle of transformation. But then there are operations that assist this, help make it happen. And the first, I mean, there are quite a few, but let's just touch on the ones that we use quite a lot, which we link with the elements.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah, so there are in the 4 elements within this model, so earth, air, fire, and water, again, metaphors for aspects of ourselves and our consciousness. Each of those needs to be purified and repurified. And again, thinking about chemistry, that it's these processes that materials need to go through in order to get to their essence. Yeah. So in the very important throughout the entire model is fire, calcinatio. So transformative. So transformative. This energy that drives the whole process. We experience it in the beginning as maybe frustration, irritation. Rage. Can be rage. Yeah. It depends how long we've been ignoring it for, potentially.
Oh, good friend anger.
Yeah. But, and it's so a sense that something's not right. And that anger or that irritation, that there's the fire within that, which is the energy to change things, the energy to set things right in some way.
Drive you through to the next stage.
Exactly. Yeah. Now that's present throughout the whole process, but what we find is that at the beginning that is very destructive, especially because it's often burning away aspects of ourselves that we're quite attached to. I thought I was this, so I thought it was okay. No, actually that needs to go.
That's going.
So that's threatening. But as we allow ourselves to be carried by this process, what that fire then turns into in its essence is that it's light. And this is something that Nigel Hamilton has talked about before, that the essence of fire is light, which starts to shine and burn and inform and have that enlightening aspect to it.
No, I think calcinatio often gets a bad rap, but the alchemists love it. And also it's one of when it comes into dreams, its symbolism is readily available for interpretation, because it's often quite clear when calcinatio is around, for instance. We've also got solutio, which is, solution, water, and all the water imagery that comes. So this will be purification through water or dissolving in some way. And then we have coagulatio, which is earth, when things coagulate. And we've used this term, I think, already quite a bit when we've been interpreting some dreams.
Concretizing of things that were maybe notional before, and they become very real. They become very embodied.
And very often it's not just earth. Food, for instance, is coagulatio. Taking in of food is part of this operation. And you often see, and blood is also, blood can be a sign that rubedo is present, but often when you have blood in a dream, blood will coagulate, it will set, and so it's also a sign that the transformative process through coagulation is happening.
Yeah.
Last one.
Sublimatio, so it's air. And this is, getting perspective on things.
The sublime, as the romanticists called it.
Yeah. There's sort of a lesser version, which is of being able to rationalize, to step back and to kind of, get a bigger picture in the mind. But there's an even bigger picture than the mind, is being able to, as you say, get to that sublime level of being able to realize something. And what needs to happen next then is that realization becomes coagulated, becomes something that's embodied, and that allows you to move forward with it in your life.
Yeah, you often see in people's dreams symbols like feathers, for instance, of plane rides. That can often, in more modern terms, we can associate the air element often through, going on a plane journey in some way. Birds often appear, but for the alchemists, they often represent different stages. I can't remember now. There's the crow, the swan, I think it's the pelican, and then the phoenix being the sign of rubedo, where you've got being born out of fire, calcinatio, the bird that can keep resurrecting itself. It's almost like the ultimate part of the process of turning lead into gold.
Yeah, again, that self-sustaining kind of process. And I don't think we went past solutio quite quickly, but of course, imagery that comes up around that is often floods.
Yeah.
Water
tsunamis
flowing. Sometimes it might be stagnant water as well, which, you can identify that the different symbolic value of stagnant water, something that needs to be moving in order to be purified, something that needs to be released. And of course, as in solutio, it's often related to grief.
Yeah.
To tears. It's not only that, though, because it also can be the letting go that we have through laughter or sighing, even.
Yeah, yes, exactly.
But frankly, grief is the far more familiar aspect of it, where it's about having to let go of something. And sometimes it's a literal grieving process, letting go of somebody we know and what they meant to us. Again, sometimes it's about letting go of a sense of who we are or who we thought we were. Maybe it's a sense of how we thought life was meant to be. And it is a purification is the thing, is that you get through that stage by feeling it. And in feeling it, things get let go. When things are let go, that makes space for something new to come in.
The dissolving again as the purification process. Well, I mean, this is such a deep subject, guys. Let's have a dream of the week. We've got a lovely dream of the week, which will actually, when we sort of discuss it, will bring a lot of this alive. So this is a dream from somebody who's actually on one of the Dream Research Institute dream courses. She's joined one of the courses for the year and working within a dream group. And I'm going to read the dream out now, and then we'll obviously have a look at it. So this is from M. I am in the desert. I am at a shamanic camp surrounded by a green hedge. There is a warm fire burning. Some people are dancing and others are relaxing by the fire. The atmosphere is calm and comfortable. There is a beautiful, intense night blue sky. It's so vast and the stars are so bright. I can also see red mountains. The landscape has a magical feel and I am just in awe of the sky. I go to sit by the hedge, losing myself in the sky and the stars. And my dream group guide is sat next to me. She is the chief shaman, and I become aware that we are waiting for for something special to happen. The dream guide occasionally opens the palm of her hand to show me a gold stone. After a while, some beautiful green glowing lights are turned on by the hedge. I think my dream guide and the others in the camp are turning them on. And that's the dream. She did work with it, but let's just talk about the dream now, and then we can have a look at how it was worked on using the DRI's waking dream technique.
Sure.
So over to you, Dave. Well, for me, it's just so full of so many alchemical symbols. I feel like a sort of a little bit like a child in a toy shop.
Exactly. And I think I say this every time we have a dream, but it's wonderful. It's a wonderful dream. It is so beautiful. And of course, there is this sense of beauty within it. She says that right from the beginning, this beautiful, intense night blue sky.
And she also says afterwards that she was struck by the absolute power and energy of this dream. She could feel it in her body.
Yeah, which is often, that's the sign, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's not necessarily what the content is particular. It's that we have an inner knowing that this is something really important.
And that's the Citrinitas part sometimes. That's the aha part, that something is available and has changed. She does go on to say that the beauty of this dream for her was a sense of hope, light, and connection to something bigger, that there was a divine opening up, which was the reception of the real gift for her.
That's lovely. Yeah. That's lovely.
So what do you make of some of the imagery?
Well, first of all, we start off in a natural setting. So we have the sky. So, she's not inside. She's not enclosed. She's not in something that's human made. It's not a construct. She's in a natural setting. Night blue sky. The stars are there.
Albedo.
Yes, exactly. Here's that distant light from the sky. I can see red mountains.
And she's in the desert. I mean, for me, that's Calcinatio as a landscape.
That's right. Yeah. Heat, dryness. Yeah. And she says the landscape has a magical feel. And for me, again, that is the sign that there's the transformative energy is here. Sometimes it's a magical figure, but here it's that there's a sense of there being something magical. What happens when we go through these inner transformative processes is it is magic. It feels like something, a part of us changes into something else. And it's like what happens in dreams, that an animal can transform into a mineral or vice versa, or people can transform into animals. Anything can happen. But the way that it happens is really important. So she has a sense of the magic, and I'm just in awe of the sky.
Yeah.
Now, the sky is, you're looking up. So we're at that sublimatio. She's on the ground, but she's in awe of the sky.
Yeah, and we've had the calcinatio with the fire as well, this campfire. I like that. It reminds me again in the Taschen book that we've referred to, that a lot of the alchemists love looking at the heavens and often did illustrations of the alchemical plates that they used, the alchemical templates that they were using, often had what they called the cosmos, and they loved to draw that.
Yeah, and there's the very important idea in alchemy, as above, so below.
Yes.
That what we are experiencing is reflected in not only the earth around us, but the cosmos that surrounds us.
And we have a rival of her dream guide, which she calls the chief shaman, who is the sort of magical figure in this landscape, who sort of offers her an understanding to stay with it, which I think is a sort of a typical dream guide type of figure that holds the mystery as such.
Yeah, exactly. And what I would sort of want to ask the dreamer is, is the dream guide, but what part of yourself is using the figure of the dream guide in order to meet you within this dream? It's somebody who holds that sense of wisdom, power, magic, whatever else it is.
And transformation as well.
Transformation, yeah. So obviously that's something that you see reflected in your dream guide, in the person who leads your group. But also this is something that's coming to you from within. And, it's a woman. So how do you relate to that feminine part of yourself?
The wise woman.
The wise
crone,
woman.
as it's often seen, both by the alchemists as well as more other forms of modern day symbolism.
Yeah.
Or, this is a sort of the shamanic crone guide in some way.
And have you met that part of yourself before? Is this a familiar part of yourself, or is this something new that you're getting in touch with, your own inner wisdom?
Yeah, a new energy for you to step into. And I think what I like about it is with at the start, she's in the desert, she's in a camp, but this desert, if anybody's been to the desert, there's not a lot of green, and we have this fabulous green hedge, which she goes and sits by as well. Now, we've often talked about greening as an alchemical term within the dream world. Greening is something very deep in a lot of esoteric and mystical communities over the centuries. Greening is a sign that transformation is happening.
Yeah.
We have the green man for in the sort of pagan world as such, and you often see green men, the green man as a symbol on buildings of change and renewal. It's not just change, it's a renewal. It's a rebirth. It's an old resurrection symbol, pre-Christian symbol. But also in the desert, the green man is symboled by this Arabic figure called Hida. And if Hida appears in the desert, he's often seen as green. He is also a bit like the shamanic figure. He's a figure of absolute transformation should you meet Hida in the desert. And he carries this green energy. And also we have a lot of red with the red mountains and the green. So red and green being oppositional colours, the sense of energy, the conjunctio of these colours coming together in this landscape feels incredibly powerful.
And then she's being offered, or she's being shown this glimpse of gold.
Yeah, the glimpse of gold. I mean, it's got every operation in it almost. Yeah. And we know also that she then within her dream group, within the DRI dream group, worked with the shamanic guide, her dream guide in the dream for real. And they took the gold stone. It was very difficult to take it. And first of all, she placed visually within the waking dream technique the gold stone on her heart. She was encouraged to put it on her heart. And then the energy of it moved up to the throat chakra. And when she put the gold stone on the throat chakra, she has since told me, it felt like a black snake to begin with, but then as it came out of her mouth, it transformed into a gold snake. Well, I mean, for me, I was just liking, oh my God, what an amazing dream. Because, you've got all processes of transformation there. The arrival of the gold snake coming out of her mouth, very deep ancient Egyptian symbol. symbol, which I think the dream guide pointed out to her as well.
And gold, which we mentioned previously, but didn't talk about that much, which is, it's incorruptible. It doesn't rust. It isn't harmed through time. It is the indelible aspect of ourselves, the true self that is not changed by all the conditioning and all the experiences of life, something that continues on and on. And, we're not always in touch with it within ourselves. But she has this beautiful image and this powerful image of going from something black, dark, heavy, and instantly, or nearly instantly, transforming into this gold that emanates from her.
Yeah.
And it sounds like she's going through, or she's on the verge of something very powerful in her own process.
Has a real feel of rubedo at the end. So you can see the 4 stages almost going through from negredo, albedo, citrinatus with the light of perhaps of the gold, the hint of the gold of the stone, through finally to the rubedo image at the end of the snake coming out of the mouth. Yeah. It's lovely. Thank you so much for allowing us to share that dream. It's very powerful, and it really brings the notion of alchemy and dreams alive for us all. And so thank you.
And that is all we have time for today. Again, it's a subject we could talk about, and we probably will return to it.
We'll come back to it, yes. Yeah. And I will share, online images from the Alchemy and Mysticism book. I'll have a look and see which ones we're allowed to share. But I really recommend it. And enjoy. If you've really found this interesting, go off and explore the subject. It's beautiful.
Keep dreaming and keep sharing your dreams. The Dreamboat is a project of the DRI Centre for Dream Studies in London. The DRI offers courses and training in dreamwork and getting to know your own dreams, from webinars to year-long immersive courses. Enrollment for the 2024 courses opens in September 2023. More information in the show notes and at driccpe.org.uk.
So, thank you for joining us for this week's episode. Don't forget to like us and leave comments on your favourite podcast platform. As I'm sure you know, that's the way we build an audience for the Dreamboat podcast, and also to spread news about dreaming. And as we said, there are many ways you can share your dreams at the DRI, the Dream Research Institute.
Yes, we have courses, events, and workshops, and we want to hear from you. So check out the show notes for links, or find us on Instagram and on our Facebook page and on our website at driccpe.org.uk. And if you want to explore your dreams further, or you would like to support us, you can join the DRI as a member for just £30 a year. As a member, you will get discounts for all of our events and short courses. You'll get our newsletter with latest dream research news, and we'll also be adding other special member benefits during the year. Of course, members' dreams will always be given preference for reading on the podcast Dream of the Week slot. So go to the link on the show notes and become a DRI member today. Keep dreaming and keep sharing your dreams.